Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's we'll be comparing the Jeep Wrangler Rubicon 392 to the Bronco Raptor to see which Halo off-road SUV is best. Before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to the Carl Malone Ford here in Park City for giving me some time with both of these vehicles. I'll include a link to their website in the description down below. Also include a link to my car buying guide. Let's get into it. Powering the Bronco Raptor is a turbo 3-liter V6 that goes through a 10-speed. Power outputs with this are 418 horsepower and then 442 pound-feet of torque. And when it comes to fuel economy, you can expect to get about 15-16 miles per gallon. Now, powering the Rubicon 392 is a 6.4-liter V8 that goes through an 8-speed. It puts out 470 horsepower and then 470 pound-feet of torque. And again, you can expect to get about 15-16 miles per gallon. Before we move forward with this comparison, I do want to mention if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Now, I do quickly want to mention that Iconic Silver is no longer available on the Bronco Raptor for the 25 model year. The only reason I picked out this particular Bronco Raptor is because 24 to 25 is not a change for the Bronco Raptor, and then the Jeep is silver, and so I just wanted them to match for the thumbnail. That is literally it. I can go and get a white Bronco 25 if you want, but I think this will be sufficient. Anywho, starting with the Bronco Raptor, you've got marker lights because this is over 80 inches wide. The first three are on the grille, the other ones are on the mirror caps of the Bronco Raptor. You've got that cool kind of like power dome there in the center, giant Ford logo, tons of ground clearance, tons of skid plate protection. I mean, this thing looks incredibly aggressive and it's massive. I mean, this Wrangler is a big vehicle, but it looks kind of small compared to the Bronco. So, hydro guide there at the top. You can see here with the new style of grille. This one's got some light pods added after the fact. That doesn't come from the factory. Winch does come from the factory though. Tons of ground clearance, tons of skid plates, but there's the front ends. Now taking a look at the tire and wheel setup, both of them have 17-inch wheels. The Wrangler comes with 35s, the Bronco comes with 37s. You can easily fit 37s on the Wrangler if you want. Now when it comes to wheel design, I think the Wrangler's pretty cool with kind of like the bronze finish. The Bronco Raptor has several different wheels. This one's got the blacked out ones. Painted fender flares on both of them. I think the Jeep looks a little bit better than the Bronco Raptor with the painted, but they both look good. Those are just side steps at the bottom, but then rock rails up above. These are just rock rails. You can see here with the mirror caps on both of them. The Broncos are attached to the body, so you can take out the doors and still have mirrors, for those of you wondering on that. And yeah, look at the width difference with these. It's quite crazy. Now when it comes to suspension, the Jeep just has regular old, you can't see much, fixed shocks, whereas the Bronco Raptor has live valve Fox shocks. So here's a side profile with the Bronco Raptor, and then here's a side profile with the Wrangler. Now when it comes to the back ends, both of these have spare tires on the rear. Both of them are the same size as the other ones, so we've got 35 on the Wrangler, 37 on the Bronco Raptor. And when it comes to storage, the Wrangler has a pretty decent storage area, but what I will say is the Bronco, on the other hand, has slightly more space. It's not that much of a difference, but there is slightly more space. And again, hopefully you can see the size difference. That's why, again, I picked the same color vehicle so that it's kind of more apparent. The Bronco's a lot wider, but it's not really, it's a little bit taller, but it's actually not that much taller. Again, if you put the Jeep on 37s, it'd be just as tall. Now, back seat area with the Bronco Raptor, you can see nice soft touch trim here. Fun trim with the seats, got nice seat belts as well. Pretty good legroom here in the Bronco Raptor. Great headroom because of the boxy design, but let's compare that to the Jeep. Now with the Jeep, a little bit less stylized, but you do have the stitching, and I will say the material use feels a little bit more high quality in the Jeep. Anyways, with the seats, you got that cool stitching. Legroom's actually pretty similar. It might be even a little bit more in the Jeep. And then headroom's pretty much the same again with the boxy design. Now up front with the Bronco Raptor, again, you've got those nice materials. 1,015 pounds of payload. We'll compare the payload. And if you guys are wondering on vehicle weight, so the Bronco Raptor weighs 5,800 pounds roughly. And then here's the front seat. Pretty cool setup there. Power adjustable, by the way. Grab handles here. I wish they had one up here instead. Make getting it a little bit easier, but kind of pop in here. So you're gonna notice a lot of digital, so full digital gauge cluster, which is gonna be cool to see throughout the Bronco lineup soon. Got adaptive cruise control. You've got all of your adjustments here on the steering wheel. So for your steering, your custom mode, your exhaust, your suspension. And then we've got a 360 camera system. This comes with a stabilizer bar disconnect, front and rear locking diff setup, trail turn assist as well. We've got heated seats with this, dual zone climate, and then this does have 2-wheel drive, but it has high, low, and auto. It also has a bunch of different off-road modes. It'll also change the suspension. And then the window controls here in the center, and just kind of like nice trim throughout. We've got 6 auxiliary switches up top and then nice top insulation in general. Now taking a look at the front door panel with the Wrangler, like I said, it just feels a little bit more high quality compared to the Bronco Raptor. But let's see the weight difference. So 850 for the payload, so less payload, but gross vehicle weight rating 6,400. So this weighs like 5,400 pounds, so a little bit less than the Bronco Raptor, but not that much less. Anyways, Rubicon 392, power adjustments on the seat with the newer Wranglers. Getting in, they do have a grab handle in the right place with this, at least. The doors definitely sound cooler when you close them. Boom! Pretty cool gauge cluster sweep. I like the controls here on the steering wheel. You got paddle shifters and then radio controls in the back. Now, this doesn't have a 360, it just has a front and rear view with the camera. So that's a little bit different with the Wrangler. You still have heated seats, heated steering wheel, you have an active exhaust with this. Still have, instead of a stabilizer bar disconnect, it's a sway bar disconnect, but very similar functionality. Front and rear locking diffs. 4-wheel drive all the time though, so that's a big difference. And it doesn't have a bunch of fancy drive modes, you basically just have off-road plus with it. So that's a little bit of a difference there. And then you can see the storage space here. And it definitely feels like smaller in here. The Wrangler interior is definitely smaller than the Bronco Raptor. And this one has the fancy sky top thing that's, yeah. So with that being said, let's take them out, drive them, and cap off the comparison. We're gonna set off in the Bronco Raptor first, and then we will do the Wrangler second. And if you guys haven't followed the channel for a long time, I have owned both of these. I actually owned them both at the same time too. So what I will say is these vehicles fundamentally changed my these two vehicles, and then I'd say the F-150 Raptor as well. All changed my thoughts on off-roading. You can come around. Yeah, you can come around here. Yeah, there's more than enough space. You're just a little Kia. But yeah, seriously, they did change my viewpoint on off-roading, and I'll kind of talk about that towards the end of the video. Oh man, we're getting like double unlucky here. Okay, this truck should be able to go around. Yeah, they're fine around that corner. So with the Bronco Raptor, this thing is crazy with the suspension. Not with the power though. That I think is the biggest downside with the Bronco Raptor, is it's not slow, it's not powerful, but it is, I would say, a bit lackluster because it's got such big tires. And the thing is, displacement really does move big vehicles, and so when you have a 3-liter that's trying to move 37s, it's a bit of a struggle. It is definitely a bit of a struggle. Now, just like most boxy SUVs, you're going to get quite a bit of wind noise up top. The top insulation helps out quite a bit, but it's going to be loud and rowdy. That's just the name of the game with this. Other than that though, the suspension's pretty darn comfortable. Again, Fox shocks, it's nice. It's not as comfortable as an F-150 Raptor, of course, but it gets the job done. It gets the job done. Now, I'm actually going to pop it. No, it looks plowed enough. I was going to pop it in 4-wheel auto, but I don't think I have to go through here. So, with the Bronco Raptor, and I can tell you off-road, it's incredibly capable. It's not really stable. That's the one thing the Bronco Raptor definitely fails at, is the off-road stability. The F-150 Raptor is super stable. This, like, just struggles. I'm waiting for this person to come and then I'll turn around. But yeah, that's the only downside. It has so much ground clearance, it's got so much travel that like it can really just like go through everything. Man, that is a tight turning radius. It's one thing that's nice about the Bronco Raptor. It doesn't sound horrible, but yeah. It's just not stable off-road. That's the only thing that I found is the big downside of the Bronco Raptor. It's like, if it can fit, right, because it's really wide, that's one problem. Another problem is it's super wide. If it can fit, it'll be able to go up it. But when you go like high speed with this thing, it is so wishy-washy all over the place. I'd recommend against it. Or get some life insurance before you do so. Anyways, let's pop into the Wrangler. Yeah, the Wrangler definitely sounds a whole lot better, that's for sure. That's for darn tootin', but does it drive better? Speaking of drive better, that's a cool looking. I'm liking these. So many people doing builds now, just all sorts of vehicles, and it's cool to see. It's cool to see all the builds. So I will say, just right off the bat, not just the sound, but the power. Man, it's a lot better. Now, of course, the steering's not as precise, right? It's got Wrangler steering, and the 392's got the worst because it's full-time four-wheel drive. So yeah, it's kind of vague, kind of wishy-washy, but I don't mind. Wind noise is, it's more. You definitely hear more noise overall with the Wrangler. Part of that's the sky top, but even if you have a hard top, the Wrangler's still noisier than the Bronco. Now, when it comes to just like smooth roads like this, the Wrangler is actually not any less comfortable than the Bronco. You might think it would be because it has a solid front axle, whereas the Bronco has independent front suspension. But that's not the case. This is just as comfortable on smooth pavement. It's once you go over bumps that the Wrangler just doesn't have the shocks, right? The Bronco has those fancy Fox shocks. So even though the Bronco's not stable, the Wrangler's also not stable, by the way. The Bronco shocks can definitely take a bigger points of compression than the Wrangler can. Some other stuff with the Wrangler, it's smaller, right? You feel like it feels lighter, drives lighter, and it's just a smaller vehicle in general. That definitely helps out on trails quite a bit. The Bronco is such a big vehicle that your biggest problem with that is honestly fitting down some of the trails. So I think I'm at the same, because I saw my tire mark from the Bronco Raptor, I'm pretty much at the same place. So let's see if I can get all the way around in the Wrangler. So turning radius is actually about the same. Power definitely isn't. The Wrangler's definitely quicker. And this new iteration of 392 where they fixed up the rear end and everything, it's definitely less wishy-washy than the version that I had at 22. That thing was all over the place. This is a little bit tighter. So when it comes to the comparison between both of these vehicles, different strokes for different folks, as they say. The Bronco Raptor sucks at being a Raptor, so if you want a real Raptor, you get an F-150 or a Ranger Raptor. But when it comes to like, if you want a great middle speed off-road and a great crawler and something that just looks really cool, the Bronco Raptor does great with that. And just better compression, like over even slow terrain, the Bronco Raptor is gonna be more comfortable than the Wrangler. Now the Wrangler is just gonna be better at rock crawling, overall solid axles, and just a smaller vehicle, easier to fit. And then when it comes to daily driving, they're both not the best. They're both high up off the ground, so getting in and out's kind of a chore. And again, both of them get around 15-16 miles per gallon, which isn't actually all that bad, especially considering the size of tires that they have. But yeah, they're not really all that economical. They're not the easiest to get in and out of, and so they're not great daily drivers, but it's like, it's something you concede to have such a cool, capable vehicle. So I mentioned earlier, these vehicles and the F-150 Raptor changed my perception of off-roading. So when I first got into off-roading, I thought that you wanted maximum capability. Now, if you're going to be doing crazy stuff down in Moab, then yeah, you definitely want maximum capability, or some of the rock gardens that are really difficult. But in terms of like most off-roading that you actually go through, like if you look at most trails, they took my parking space. They're actually pretty darn easy. Like you can get through a lot of trails on 29-inch tall tires. 31s, 33s, enormous. 35s, 37s, so big that the problem with them is it makes off-roading so easy that it's boring. And that's actually why that was a big reason why I was done with the content series, but I was also done with these cars because I got so bored with off-roading. It's like everything point and shoot, and that's it. You don't have to try at all. Now, if you're just getting into off-roading, then like that's great because you don't have the skill set. But once you have the skill set, these are so boring off-road. again, unless you're unless you go on crazy obstacles where you're basically going to kill yourself potentially, it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, what, I don't know, what's the point? So, and it's also the speed, especially with the, you know, the Raptors. You can traverse terrain at such a rate that, like, it takes away the adventure of off-roading, in my opinion, because it's like, if you have a vehicle you have to go kind of slow, it's like just going up a hill is an adventure. Whereas, like, even in this you can actually go pretty quick off-road as well. You get up these obstacles so quickly that you're like, okay, well, where's the next one? Where's the next one? And there's like no adventure to the off-roading. So these vehicles, as capable as they are, for me, it changed my perspective on off-roading, and that's why all of the off-roaders that I currently own have smaller tires. The biggest tire that I currently own is a 33-inch tall tire on my 250 Land Cruiser. I don't want to go any bigger than that because, like I said, it just makes off-roading kind of boring, kind of pointless. So let me know your thoughts on that. Let me know your thoughts on these two. I love both of them for different reasons. I think the Wrangler, though, in my opinion, is the one that I would, like, if I were to go back and if I could only buy one of them, it would be the Wrangler again. Just because the Bronco Raptor is a jack of all trades in a not so positive way. It's still a cool vehicle, though.